All right. Welcome, everybody. We are here for yet another Thursday of exploring Project Firefly. Thank you for joining us, bright and early or late in the evening, depending on where you happen to be in the world. So we have a great show today. We've got a bunch of us from the Firefly team: Sarah, Meryl, Jesse, Dave, and myself, to talk about extensions. And we will be bringing you a great deal of information about extensions. And yeah, this should be good. If you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and add them to the chat. Now, one thing about asking questions that the last time we had a little bit of a problem. Eventbrite apparently has a page that when you click on to watch the live stream, you may end up on a page where it embeds the YouTube channel, or sorry, the YouTube video inside that web page. If you're watching it inside of Eventbrite, you don't have the ability to ask questions. So go ahead and in the bottom right-hand corner of your video viewer, you should be able to click the little YouTube name or icon or whatever, and it will bounce you over to YouTube. And then just throw questions. You just have to be logged into YouTube, and then you can add questions to the chat. All right. So it has been it's been a little bit. We have some pretty awesome things. So we released the extension capability at the end of last month. And another thing that just went live that we're super excited about, and you might be like, well, okay, so what? But for us, it's been a long time coming. We had search on the website ages ago, and we just I guess yesterday added search back in. So now we've got the little magnifying glass in the upper right hand corner of all the pages on adobe.io, and yeah, so now you can search, and that is a very good thing. All right, let me jump into adding everybody in. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to bring Sarah, Meryl, Jesse, Dave, and myself. We're all going to be in at the same time. So usually we do that kind of at the end, but this one's more collaborative, so we can kind of all jump in. So here, let me bring in Sarah. Hey, how's it going, Sarah?
What's up, folks? Hi, guys. This is Sarah. Hopefully you're familiar with me. I've been on the live streams a couple of times with Ron now. I work as a product manager on Project Firefly and live in the Bay Area.
Right on. All right. And now we got Meryl.
Oh, hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and great way to start today, Ron, with this amazing video. Made me smile during. I'm super happy to be here. We have met probably already in other sessions. I'm Sarah's counterpart for engineering, so leading engineering for the developer experience of Project Firefly. And as you can hear, no surprise, I'm French.
Exactly. Which maybe we'll at the end hear one of those sayings that you did the other day or during our thing, but I can't remember what it was. Anyways, let me bring on Jesse. Hey, Jesse.
Hello. I'm Jesse.
Go ahead.
Wishing I was playing my guitars, but just kidding.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. This is awesome. I can't wait to share some of the stuff that we've been working on. I'm a developer on the team, so deep in the code. So hopefully it works great for y'all. We'll have some demos. Should be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone's got any super technical questions, we've got Jesse here to back us up and provide yes, the answers. And then we've got Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hello, I'm Dave.
How's it going, man?
I'm a human, and I like doing nerdy things. And I'm surprised that Meryl's French. That threw me off. I picked up on that.
Sorry to spoil you, man.
I know.
Wow.
It's only been a couple of years, but you know.
And I'd like to apologize for the search on the Adobe IO website. I'm not sure who the jerk is that decided to take it out of the website originally, but it's a bad move.
Yeah.
So we have it back.
we're now whole again, so we
are.
have search. It is a good thing. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let me add to the stream. Meryl, you have the slide power, and
Yep.
Sarah. Oh, so I also want to apologize for Sarah's bandwidth. She is a little bit bandwidth constrained, so if there's any issues with her network, we may lose her, but we've got her for now, so we are going to enjoy it. Go ahead, Sarah.
You know, that's the bandwidth, and if you see a cat with a donut around his neck, that's all, all blames on me. So, hi guys. Meryl will be helping me with sharing the slides. I'm going to do a really quick introduction of, what is extensions, what does this release mean for you guys, and then we're actually going to hand over to Dave to show you guys how to do a migration project. And we're really hoping that, as Ron said, this should be as interactive and as open as possible. We're really all here, as you can see, you got like the product person, the engineers, like everybody, right? All on this call to answer any sort of questions you might have on extensions around Project Firefly. All right, let's jump right in. So for those of you who have been using Project Firefly, you should know that, we are really a framework for any developers working with Adobe Experience Cloud to create your own custom applications that is cloud native, that runs on our infrastructure. You can easily create and manage your applications, build with the support of our tooling and SDKs, and then eventually submit your application so that it is accessible through your organization. Next slide, please. And if you have tried your hands on Project Firefly, you would probably notice that, up to this point, you have these two main categories of applications that you can build. The first one is you could build a single page application that eventually ends up in Experience Cloud UI, where any of your enterprise users will be able to log in through Experience Cloud. If they have the correct access set up, then they'll be able to see it, access it all natively once you've published the application. The second category is any headless services and microservices that you would build on Project Firefly. Now, these are a little bit more standalone traditionally. So you will essentially have these applications. If you want to invoke them from Adobe Solutions, you will basically take your endpoint from these microservices, plug it in somehow, or you can set up what we call alarms. They're basically like cron jobs to invoke them by itself on a timer within Firefly. But this category of application is really, standalone. Unlike the single page applications, which once you've submitted it, is a very integrated experience for your users, right? So end to end, they see it as part of the native experience. They are able to click into the application. There's no extra steps required for the user to be able to access applications like this. Now, as Project Firefly grows, we are actually, let's stick to the previous slide for now. Thank you. As Project Firefly grows, we realize that we're getting more and more asks. We probably should rehearse this bit a little bit more, but we are getting more and more asked to have more of this integrated pattern, right? Instead of microservices that you build and you have to, manage manually and then figure out what is the endpoint, manually update the endpoint if needed, change all of this stuff. More and more, both products as well as developers are asking us for a pattern that allows for this more integrated pattern that, I want to be able to say how you can extend my application from the product perspective. And then from developers perspective, I want to be able to easily just build, test, deploy, and then it should natively show up in the product. That's how it works. So this is really what motivates us to essentially build all the support for extensions within Project Firefly. Now, I know Mara has wanted to change this slide for a while, so let's land on it. This is really going into a little bit more details on what extensions are and how it looks like. So picture a scenario like this, right? You have a Firefly application on the right-hand side here, and then you have various Adobe products on the left-hand side. Your Firefly application might have, let me actually use a real life example. let's say that you are implementing an asset microservices worker, but you also want to have a single page application that, you know, allows you to visualize some of the workflows or some of the progress of the worker. And they share some functionalities, so you want to keep all of these within the same Firefly application. But behind the scenes, it's really extending two different Adobe products, right? So the UI, you want it living in Experience Cloud UI, whereas the asset microservices work like custom profile is living in AEM as a cloud service. So in this case, these are two real extension points that we're pushing out, Experience Cloud UI as well as asset microservices. So they both created what we call extension points. Extension point is, you can think of it basically as a contract. It is these products saying, here is the contract for how you can extend our product. It is expecting certain operations to be allowed, certain formats. It's expecting certain, you know, it can be as loose and as restrictive as the product would like. But they basically define what this contract looks like for applications that want to extend this extension point. Now with that, so extension point, with that, a Firefly application can essentially build against these extension points. And what we use to link up an extension point and a Firefly application is what we call endpoints. So you provide endpoints to these extension points that actually, the endpoints are actually implementing these extension points. So going back into the example that I was kind of sharing about, you have a custom processing profile in AEM Asset Microservices, and you have a UI that you would like to use to visualize the application. From your Firefly application, you essentially have the processing profile as an endpoint that is implementing the AEM microservices extension point. And you will have a UI that is a separate endpoint that implements the extension point provided by Experience Cloud UI. I know I've said the word extension and endpoint about 2 million times, but I hope this I really hope this visualization helps you understand a little bit more on how those relationships work. And this is really like an 0 to end kind of relationship. So your Firefly application can continue to be a standalone application, not implementing anything, you know, just running as an alarm package, you know, regularly scheduled work. Or, you know, if you would like to take advantage of these extensions, then you can actually expose endpoints and define which extension points they're implementing and leverage this more integrated pattern of extending Adobe products. And as the example illustrates, one application can implement multiple extension points, as many as you like, for as many products as you like. That being said, next slide, please. We are actually only rolling out with 2 right now, so 2 is the maximum you can do in the current scenario. For those of you who have built single-page applications with Firefly should be familiar with our integration pattern with Experience Cloud UI. So that remains the same, where, you know, once you build an SPA and you link it to this extension point, it will allow you to, the users of your application, to be able to access this from Experience Cloud directly. But we're also introducing an AEM Asset Microservices extension point. This allows you, for those of you who are building custom processing profiles, if you leverage this extension point, it will start showing up natively within your AEM Asset Microservices in the short future, so that your users, just like how they would access Experience Cloud UI, will be able to actually natively see this in AEM, don't have to do any additional work. If you update the application, changes are reflected immediately, and easy peasy. Next slide, please. So all this talk about extensions. What does this mean for you? Well, number one is, I hope that because you're here, that you're interested in what is this functionality that we have been released, how does it impact you? You know, we encourage you to learn more. Join us in live streams like this, post questions to us in our forum, ping us, you know, in any shape or form. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Secondly, this is really, I would say, kind of ground zero for our vision with a new pattern of integration with different Adobe products. So expect more extension points coming. Right now, you have these two. We're hoping to introduce more and more in the near future. And that will really open up lots of different possibilities with what your application can extend across Adobe. Last but not least, because of this infrastructure changes, if your application is currently a single page application or a asset processing custom profile, asset microservices custom processing profile, you would have to migrate your application. So that is actually what Dave is going to show you guys a little bit more in his demo on basically the steps to do so. The word migration sounds absolutely terrifying, but we promise it's super, super simple. It's just a few steps. I cross my heart. So we're going to gradually retire some of the older services that your existing application might depend on by October 28th. This means that if you have existing applications, they will continue to work for the time being. But as we are as we are beginning to retire them towards the end of October, beware of timing. Safe. Don't do this all like on October 28th. You might need to reserve a week or two at least. So that basically ends my portion of the talking. And if you guys have any questions, post them in the chat and we'll answer them towards the end. But for now, let me hand over to Dave, who will actually show you guys how this whole thing works, how you migrate your application, and yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Finish talking.
Yeah, no, that was great. Well, you're not finished, but yes. Thanks for the presentation. That was wonderful. Dave, are you ready for me to share your screen?
I was writing down a bunch of questions for her, but yeah, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. You are live.
Wow, look at that. All right, so here we are. I'm in the Experience Cloud shell. But what we're gonna do to start out here is I'm gonna go over to Adobe I/O and I'm gonna show you guys how to find the documentation. And I'm gonna do so using this awesome new search functionality that the team came up with, and I'm super excited, super proud of them getting this in there. We finally have search. I'm super excited. So hit the little little magnifying glass in the corner. Boom, extension migration. And it comes right up. There's 3 options here. There are different sections of the guide, but we're going to go to the top. And there we go, extension migration guide. And so there's a lot to read here. It's quite a long document. To be honest, I went through this for the first time myself, I think Tuesday. So I have a bunch of feedback and I think a couple pull requests waiting for Meryl and Sarah on the documentation. I think there's a few things that we can improve in here, but
I'm going to go merge.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, you can look at it first. I would definitely.
Let's review first. It's Dave.
It is Dave, right? So I'm going to not go through everything here, but I'm going to go over a couple of the key differences. So one of the big changes is the file structure. The file structure is changing from a flat file structure that's all underneath root to more of a tiered file structure that allows us to separate each of the projects so that you can have multiple. And that's one of the things that my question was about for Sarah, was the level of isolation as we start modularizing the projects, can they share things between them? So there's the old file structure where we have actions, web source, test, end-to-end testing, and all the configuration files at root. The new structure is pretty simple. We're basically doing a single source directory, and then we'll go into the extension point, and then we move all those items a little bit higher up a little bit lower down the file tree there. So I'll show you guys that. But the step-by-step here is what we're really going to focus on for this first half of the demo. So, and I'm not going to read this all to you or anything, but there's basically three guides here. There's 3 different configuration updates, right? If you don't extend any extension points in your application, so say you're a backend task that runs on alarms and just pulls in some data, maybe you have a standalone single page application that is not exposed by Experience Cloud UI. There's a couple other use cases, right? There's a path for that. And I'm not going to show that one because it's super easy. You don't have to really do anything. Number 2 is a path where you have at least one extension point, right? So you're extending, you're putting out a single page application, or you're extending the AEM asset microservice. And then 3, which is the other configuration guide we have here. This one is basically number 2 with more. So under 3, we start breaking out the project to be a little bit more modular and adding multiple 2s. So we break out our configuration some. So I'm going to get right into it, and I am going to go scroll down to applications extending one extension point. So I'm going to go use our ADU project. So this project here is one that we use for our educational content, which will be coming out October 4th. This will be available. We're going to make a big training course. You guys are going to be able to follow along and watch multiple. You're going to get to listen to me for multiple hours. I'm sorry for that, but yes, we have training coming. And this is the project that you'll be dealing with in the training. And since we've introduced extension points, I'm going to need to port this to support extension points, right? Or the migration to extension points. So, all right, the first step, if we go back here to the guide, is to create a file called app.yaml, app.config.yaml. So I'm going to do that. Pretty simple. I'm going to go into root here, just make a new file. Boom. Done. Now this is now the main entry point for our application, and when we do the build process, this is where everything begins. Inside here, we're going to need to put in some more data. So if we go back to the instructions here, and to be honest, you know, like the steps here, this is one of my comments for the data, right? I went straight down to here and grabbed this because it was just easier, and it made more sense than some of the instructions. The instructions, sorry, they jump around a little bit, but the sample is clear, right? Inside this new application file, we're going to put in extensions. We're going to put in a name for our extension point, and then we're going to tell it what it does, right? What kind of operations it extends. So we're going to go back here. Boom, it's a YAML file, so we need to make sure the indentation and everything is correct. Boom. So in here, we're telling it that we have extensions. We're giving it a name, and I confirmed this the other day with Sarah, because this was named really similar to what we're actually extending. I was wondering if it was somehow keyed off anything, and Sarah, you let me know that this is basically just a string identifier for your extension point, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And then we have operations, right? And we're telling it that this one is, so under here on the key for view, is the type of what we key and say that this is a web extension for the Experience Cloud, or does Vue have something to do with it as well? This is one question that I had while doing it.
It's just the Vue. The rest is used for building. Vue describes an operation that's the only operation that a DXEXC shell 1 extension should implement.
And this would be the implementation file. This would be what the SPA build process outputs at the end, which is the entry point or the implementation. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So step 1 done. And this is how I did it, following the instructions you guys posted. The next step in here is basically to port the manifest.yaml. So inside manifest.yaml, we're going to want to move that into our now application configuration. Another note from the instructions here, it doesn't call out the runtime manifest key here. So I'm going to grab that. We're going to need that. We're going to put that in here. And we got to make sure when we're doing this in our new configuration file, since this is YAML, make sure to pay attention to the level that we're putting this at. Like right now, this is actually not at the right level, right? We're going to have to put this at the level with the operations. All right, and then now that we've done that, we're going to want to grab the manifest.yaml and not the license. We're going to grab the manifest.yaml and we're going to paste it in there. And again, pay attention to your pasting because indentation matters. So we're going to want this to be under packages. That's going to go runtime, packages. One question I did have was app package still valid here, or should we put a name in here? Will
App package is still valid. That will be replaced by your application name and the version from package.json. But if you want to deploy to a specific package name, you can change that as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was one thing I was wondering when I was doing this. So, and then if you want to look here, you know, like I said, YAML is position based, you know, indentation based. You want to make sure that your operations, when you copy and paste things over, everything lines up correctly, because that could be fun.
Well, so actually, so Dave, hold on. So I was going to ask you a question about that. So since YAML is indentation strict, what happens if you don't do that, right? What if you forget to do that? What is the what breaks, I guess, and then how do you troubleshoot that you're like, oh, it must be the indentation?
I don't know what it looks like. Go ahead.
You'll see an error at build.
Okay.
That'll tell you that the manifest, or sorry, the app config has an error.
Okay, and so then because you're going through this migration process, you would then go back here and then double check against the documentation what the indentation should be, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably one of the points you would want to make sure to, if you're not familiar with YAML or any of this, that this is one of the points that you'd want to check out. When it goes through and YAML gets basically broken down, it turns it into an object structure, and you know, as it rolls things up, each of these become objects, right? So packages has that underneath it, or a map, right? So, yep. So there we go. Actually, we are. Let's see. Let's go back to the instructions. I think I need to delete the manifest now. So let's go back there. I'm going to delete this. This is no longer needed because our application will now pick up appconfig.yaml, and it has everything we need. It's telling us that it's telling the build program process that we're doing an extension point to the Experience Cloud. We have all our actions all packaged up and ready to go there. The other things that are in here are kind of optional. So we have, and I'll go over these real quick. We have hooks. So we're not using any hooks in this training application, so I don't have to bring them in. But the hooks, they'll still be valid in here if I'm not mistaken, right? If you put hooks in here, or are they going to be deprecated and only fired from app config?
They will only be fired from the actual extension point.
Okay.
So you actually need to move them.
Okay, cool. So if in here you have post or pre-build hooks that fire scripts and run things, you're going to need to move them up into here. They're going to be at the same level as runtime here. Let's see. It gets fun when they get really long, right? And this is one of the reasons for modularity in the hooks. And then you would put, your post and pre-build hooks underneath here if you had them. And then, and if you go up, yeah, it looks like it's the same level, third level deep. Yep. So that one's at the right level. So we would move them out of the package.json if we had them. This project doesn't have any, so we don't need it. The other thing that's going to go at this level, if you have it, Sarah?
Just a quick comment on why the hooks need to be within extensions is because you can actually build and deploy by extension points. So the hooks being part of that configuration allows for the level of separation if you have any pre or post hooks.
Right. If like you had two different extension points, you wanted two different pre's to fire or post to fire that did different processes based on completely different applications. Yeah.
Deployment patterns to CDN, to custom CDN, and to runtime, for example, and so on.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. As the projects get more complicated too, and we'll show the file separation here in a minute, but it makes sense when you start looking at the configuration and how long they can get with complex applications. If you started extending multiple extension points and having multiple projects in here, the manifest is going to get pretty unruly, and some of these other things are going to get pretty long and hard to maintain. So it's the separation at the file system level is really cool. And then the last thing that we can add in here, and we don't have any of these, and I was a little confused on this point when I was actually going over the documentation, because I didn't have any. But apparently inside a AIO, you can have app, a key called app. I don't have an app, but from what I understand in the documentation, if you had a section called app, so let's say a project was called app, you would take these keys here and you would move them to the root level. Is that correct? It would end up here, something like this, not like this, right? I did this with project, not app, but let's say this was app, right?
So the project object comes from the console configuration, and it's not relevant for the app config. What is important in the app is that you can define, for example, the action folder name or the WebSRC folder name and other configurations related to your code base. And this is what I think the documentation refers as being convertible to the new structure.
So right here, where it talks about move any configuration under app, under the in.aio into extension, that extension name. So it would basically go in at this top level, though, right? Without the, whoops, that's the wrong file. I close that. People. So it would go in like this, right? If you had any apps in here.
Yep.
And this would most likely not be these items. It would be actions. Is that the?
I don't know by heart. Maybe Jesse does. And if he doesn't know, then no one can help you right now.
Web action, something like that, right?
I would just look at a new project. I mean, if you create a new project now, you're going to get a properly formatted everything, including the extension point definition inside the extension folder, right? Because this process right here is all about migration.
Yeah.
If you're starting, I mean, there's another way of migrating as well, whereas you create a new project, you copy over your code, right? Because the configuration is all part of the project, right? But
yeah,
if you want to move your source code to the other project, you can take it the other way as well.
And that's one thing I did when I did this a couple days ago, is I fired up and just initialized a new project real quickly, because it's super easy to just fire up a new extension point project using app init, right? And I saw what it output and how it formatted everything, and it made things really clear where the migration's heading, right?
Yep.
But at this point, I think we're done. So this application for a single extension point, not a very complex project altogether. We're done, right? Like at this point, we've migrated. So we should be able to do, and it will run. Unless I typoed something somewhere, it should be fine. And this is going to be compatible going forward, correct? This is good to go, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll show you after we see this build, I'm going to go and show the file system changes. I think the file system changes are important because it just cleans up the code. And as we talk about this and start documenting, I think, keeping a common file format or, folder structure pattern is important for people to see, because it's just going to make it easier for people to latch on later on.
And while this is running or building and deploying, Dave, just to mention, I reviewed your PR and it's merged. Just to tell the people listening to us that we welcome every PR.
Yes. We are not documentation experts, but if you have ideas, please let us know, because we are more than open to taking suggestions.
Either that or directly against the SDK as well.
Yes, for sure. So here, if anybody's interested, this is the project we were using, and this is the project that will be coming out as far as all the training that we're putting out. And then let's go check out this application, make sure it runs real quick. One thing I did do to verify that everything was clean when I did this is I went into the CLI and I hand deleted all the runtime actions, just to make sure that everything was recreated properly and everything. I thought that, that's one thing that I've done a few times. I found makes things a little bit safer when you make big shifts in projects, because your actions will stay out there. They don't delete. So going through and hand deleting and make sure everything redeploys is always a good idea. So there we go. Yep, look at that. We got briefs with dogs. And then if we go into a brief, we put some dogs in here. Let's see. Oh, Carmen liked this one. There we go. We got Carmen's dog there.
The Adobe Stock API at work.
Border Collie.
Very nice.
Border Collie, is that the way to go?
Yep.
So our project deployed successfully, and we'll take some comments real quick, and then I can move into rearranging the file structure. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So we don't have any questions as of yet. So again, if folks who are watching this want to ask a question, I mentioned at the beginning, you might not have been here for that, but if you're in the Eventbrite page where you're looking at YouTube in a embedded window, definitely click out of that into YouTube in the lower right corner. You can just click the button to bounce out to YouTube, and then if you're logged in, you're able to comment and ask questions. So there you go.
So there's nothing else. Should we dig a little bit deeper into and show them the file system changes? Or not the file system, but the folder pattern.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming that there are no questions because this is such an easy and straightforward, simple migration process.
To be honest, it took me. I think the code sample was the best thing for me when I did it the first time. The instructions, I'm going to work on them some more. It's hard to write up. It's really actually kind of goofy to write up. I mean, I give you guys props for putting it out there. Like the step 1, 2, 3 and describing each of the properties changes and stuff is, I can see how it's hard to do in a sentence, right? But the code sample is great.
Yeah, I think the struggle. So I'm actually the one who wrote the documentation, which is why I kept laughing when you're like, the documentation can use it.
I know.
Please do.
I know.
Give me them PRs. I think the issue is like there's a lot of flexibility with like what your application might look like, and trying to translate that. So, which is why we put out a lot of code examples. So hopefully that helps visualize what the end result should look like. If other than Dave, if anyone in the audience, if you have more feedback with our documentation, please throw it my way. Feel free to tag me to review it.
There is one comment. There is one comment coming from Alexander. Okay, he says he's going to try out and come back with questions. Perfect. Thank you very much, Alexander. Awesome. Maybe something related to what Dave and Sarah said about the code structure and the flexibility and the examples that you might have in the doc right now. Do not take as granted that every extensions within your app should be in the same code base. This is to keep things simple in the doc, but actually we do support all the flexibility you'd like to have at your project level. If you want to have some reusable modules that come as your own SDK, injected as dependencies, you don't need to have these ones in the code of your extensions. If you want then to have to build an app that comes with 2 extensions, you can also use 2 different code bases in 2 different repos and reuse the same console credentials to deploy to the same project in the end. Because we don't have to force you in the way you want to work. If you want to work with multiple teams on different aspects of the big app that contains multiple extensions, for example, we believe that it's all up to you to decide, and we have to support this flexibility.
Yeah, I think the file system or the folder structure changes and the way you guys have broken it out really allow for that kind of multi-team or independent working. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, in this case, you have described the entire extension point inside the app config, but you can also have a extension point configuration in the DX exe shell 1 directory, which describes just that extension point and contains the operations and runtime manifest, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. And that's where I'm going to head right now. So to break this out, right now we got this folder structure here, right? It's all under root, kind of flat. If you had multiple projects or a very complex project, I mean, this is going to get, and this is just a sample app, right? I mean, this is going to start to get pretty big. And, if you have multiple teams working on a lot of these pieces, And that was one of my questions with this modularity that we're introducing. The level of isolation. Is there any level of isolation between these extension points? Or if I make a action in, if I have a project here that has 3 different includes, right? Or 3 different extension points, would I be able to share like a common between them? They're all in the same namespace, right? So I should be able to reuse actions, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there's no isolation. So cool. So all right, let's show what this looks like. I'm going to break it out. So this is compatible with the future here. If you want to just go this far and port your app to this and you're happy, awesome. We're going to go a little bit further and we're going to try to add a folder. Let's see, do I have to go up here? Why is it not? Where's my folder? Where add folder. Oh, demo fail.
It's the editor, it's not Firefly.
Okay, so new folder. We're going to call it source, but it's in the wrong spot. I'm going to move it up and just drag it up to the top. Actually, out here. No, don't. Why are you doing this to me? There we go. There we go. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so, all right. To be clear, we now have a folder structure that's exactly the same as it was before, but with a source directory, right? So now underneath source, I'm going to make a new folder. And let's just, for consistency's sake, we'll name it the same as our project here, right? exe shell. Let's put the -1 in there because it's the first extension.
Put the DX as well.
Is that necessary? Is it necessary or just to be consistent?
It's consistent. It's clean.
Right. There we go. But there's nothing to do. There's nothing special about the name. It's just consistency. Cool. All right. So there we go. What?
Yeah, the root will describe where that is. So that's all that matters.
So now we have kind of even more of a mess, right? We have source and all this here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab all our actions. I'm going to move all these up into that new folder. I'm not going to mess with Cypress at the moment. We won't talk about some of the testing stuff. I haven't got that far yet. We're going to grab E2E and put it here. All right, so we should have actions at E2E. Let's see, where's test? We'll move test up there. The testing, actually Cypress and those other items will go up there. I just haven't figured out how to tweak the configuration yet. So there we go. Look at the root now, nice and clean, right? Check that out. But now to get even cleaner, what we're going to need to do is move some configuration up here. So we're going to create a new file. That's ext config YAML, right? I think that's the right name. Yeah. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go back down to our application root here. And we're going to grab this and we're going to segment it out. We're going to go up to what, like here, I think.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
And we're going to bring that up here. We're going to fix all my indentation. Shift tab that over. I think that's right. Now we need to add a couple more items in here, right? Like we need to tell it when it does the build process where our actions are, right? Because we've moved out of the normal structure and into our extension structure. So actions are in the action directory underneath this config. And then web, also something we're going to need to build. And we have that in web source, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So from the point of view of this extension config right here, it needs to know, based on this operation being a view and type web, it needs to know where to build things. So we added some parameters here to tell it where to build things. Cool, except for this won't work yet. Right, so this is all correct. But down here, the root application config YAML doesn't know about our extension point over here at all. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to tell it to include it, right? So
yep.
Oops. And boom, and then what is it? SRC. No, that's not right at all. Should have resolved that for me. That's not nice of it. And a DX. That's right. and then ext.config YAML.
YAML.
Thank you. There we go. So now when the build process and everything runs, it's going to find this file. It's going to build it out and take all of this over here and put it into our main application config and continue processing, right? Which allows us to keep things nice and slim, in my opinion, right? As we start adding more and more of these, say you have 2 extension points, 3 extension points, right? Complexity, starts to get crazier and crazier, right? So this would be a really super big config if it, we had this over and over again, right?
By the way, call out to the people listening who are part of the community. Do you guys think this would be helpful to have a VS Code extension to manage the config? And if so, would you like to contribute to it? Call to action.
Call to action. And if you comment on that, we're automatically going to sign you up.
Yes.
Now,
way to drive commenters, guys.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll send you a nice shirt or something. I was actually making a little sculpture at one point that I was going to 3D print and send to people with a Firefly. So yeah, that's it. We've now modularized this. So we've updated the file folder structures for this project. In honesty, a lot of these testing pieces that we have in here, I haven't moved them yet because I just got started on this, 2 days ago now. But a number of these other items would go inside there. Like I think the Cypress JSON and the Cypress test would all go probably up here in this extension as well.
All right.
Yeah, and I think
Thanks,
what might not be obvious from this is that include doesn't have to be a child directory of that project. That could be somewhere else on your hard drive. Right? So you could have an extension point implementation that's deployed as part of multiple projects with different configuration and credentials for each. So you can share code among projects via, having them in separate repos on your machine and just pointing to them.
You just have to bring them all in local and do the build process, then, or into your CI/CD, and then build them all.
Well,
and then
build tooling will take care of that, right? Because it's just pointing to the files, but it will still build them locally.
So what does the build tooling look like on a CI/CD for a project that's going to include multiple projects from different repos? Are we going to put in
that is not covered? That's a little more complicated. You need to use npm or some other way of bundling code to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, cool. So we'll go check it again since we're here. And I'm pretty sure it won't break, but that's the famous last words right there. Pretty sure it won't break. I just jinxed myself in a demo. I should know better. Hit refresh. Ta-da! It knows who I am. Look at that.
Looks nice.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dave and Jesse and Meryl and Sarah for providing some good stuff around extension points and extensions in general. So just to recap, if you've got a single page application that leverages the Experience Cloud, then you're certainly going to need to do a migration. And then again, if you are doing a microservice, remind me again, there's no migration or there is a short migration?
Depends if you're extending an extension point, right?
Right.
So Jesse was going to do a demo on, I think we ran out of time, but what was the difference between what I did and just doing the NUI? Would it be just the same steps that I did, except for different extension point and basically less web source?
Yep. Yeah, it wouldn't have the web source. There's a little nuances with the tests, but we're actually working on the tooling to cover that. So it will be the same.
But then there would be an extra hook for the test, right, Jesse?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, there's going to be a hook in here
Yeah.
to call out the test. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, because there is the asset compute tool, which has to be launched locally when you're testing.
I see. So they could basically kind of follow along with this and add in those differences and be in a good spot.
Yep.
All right. Very cool. So thank you a ton for that. I mean, this is, I think, great information, even though it is a super simple process. Having, this video out there for folks to watch and follow along and kind of scrub through, I think will be tremendously helpful.
And the code is also in this repo here. So I have set up. So I have a branch in here for pre-extension migration, and I'll be updating main afterwards for post. So if people wanted to go out and just poke around and look at the differences, do a diff.
Cool. Thanks, man. All right, I am going to remove your screen and put us back up here. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so again, if there's no questions, we gotta get working on. I think we're gonna start giving stuff away. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to start giving stuff away for people to ask questions.
I think Xbox X, GPUs. I'm happy to go try it out and make sure they're cool.
There you go.
Before we go and give them away. I mean,
a slightly confirmed Xbox One X.
I don't know if GPUs will grab the right crowd, but that'll bring in some people for sure.
Yeah, we will think of something to provide for folks that join us.
Wait one of Jesse's guitars just for showing up.
Signed by himself, like a signature.
Jesse's like, no,
not my baby.
No, those are too good. Maybe a unicorn rainbow balloon or something.
I'm still working on the Space Cat print. I gotta do a gold Space Cat print.
I think we should definitely do some Space Cats. That would be great.
So Space Cat, for those of you who don't know, want to explain it, Sarah?
Yeah, that is when Project Firefly was first birthed, we're trying to come up with the project name. And funny enough, obviously, Space Cat was the one that really stuck for a little bit before we were officially granted the name Firefly.
There was the other name that happened after a trip to Munich too during Oktoberfest, but that one didn't stick for brand reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so thank you again. Next time, what is it? In 2 weeks, we have another session. I don't yet have speakers completely confirmed for that, so stay tuned. And I also want to mention we have a developer conference coming up here in October. So October 4th. Yeah, I know, it's amazing, Meryl. This is going to be incredible. October 4th, we have
Meryl's French, and now the developer conference from Adobe. That's insane.
It is going to be super cool. So we have we'll have more information probably next time we do this show, October 4th and 5th. So it's a 2-day developers Adobe Developer Live conference. We hope that you will join us. We will have a ton of Firefly sessions and some great announcements related to Firefly. So stay tuned for that. And again, I will send out invites for the next show coming up here probably early next week when I've got all of the speakers signed up for that. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to you guys for joining us. I'm going to now play our outro. See you guys.
Bye.